So we want to say a quick hello. Shall we just say hello to each other, who we are first, before I get into that? That would be nice. Let's do a hello. So, and like a brief sentence about who you are and what you've done. We'll start with Eugene. Do you want to say hello?
Oh, wow. I don't know why I deserve the honor, but
You
hello,
do.
everyone. Um, I know some people in terms of physical closeness, but Victor and Nick, I know through their great reputation. Anyway, my name is Eugene Skeef, and I was born in Durban in South Africa many years ago. And I worked with Steve Biko. That's what brought me to London because I had to flee for my life. So I was in exile for many years until it was okay for me to go back. And then I've interacted with these other three beautiful people in the UK through music work and through the charity that I founded called Umoya Creations. And you all know that the word Umoya is spirit, wind, temperament, rumor, and all of those kind of things.
Lovely. Well, I'll go next. I'm Craig McLeish, and I'm Piers' brother. I've been involved in choir and music and arranging and composition all my life. I was set up to go to South Africa for 3 weeks in 1989. So a guy called Nigel Goodwin, who was a kind of connecting person, introduced me to Mali du Plessis, and I went to stay with Mali for a couple of weeks in Johannesburg. And when I was with Mali, I met Nick and you guys from Friends First, who I was a massive fan of, loved all your music. And then after that, Nick came to London, and loved having him as part of our community in London, and we formed a band. We did some gigs together, and we talked about songs and about South Africa and stuff. And I heard about some of Nick's story, and thought he was a perfect guy to throw this situation at, because I would love to hear what he thinks about South African songs, whether they're folk songs, the ones that aren't folk songs, and what we do about them. So this is why I brought you in. And Nick, you've has said to me that Victor, you know more than anybody about this subject. So, but I'm just massive. I'm fanboying today. Okay, to just let me do that for a bit. Is that okay? Because I love all your bass lines. Okay, Piers, you're next on my screen.
Okay. Hi. I'm Craig's brother. Few years younger. I've always been, as a family, we've always been involved in music for all our lives. But I took a different path. I started after university with in IT, and I did a big career in IT, and then managed to sort of step away from that a little bit and helped and set up Choir Community, choircommunity.net, with Craig, a website for choirs, about 7 years ago now. I sort of run the website and the business side of things. And so I'm here I suppose, representing that platform as a platform and an organization that is both helping Umoya financially through the music that we publish, and also, I suppose, creatively, and we want to support whatever comes out of this conversation. We'd love to support that in a way which works in the best possible way for the whole sort of singing community out there around the whole world, who are interested in sharing this incredible music. So that's kind of where I guess we're coming from, right?
Okay. Hello, Gitika. You're next on my screen.
Hello, my name is Gitika. It rhymes with Whitaker. There you go. So if you forget, just think about someone called Whitaker. If I was to marry someone called Whitaker, that would be really annoying, wouldn't it? Gitika Whitaker. I am involved in the website with Piers and Craig. Came in a little later. They invited me to come and be one of the first arrangers, and then I came on board as as part of the board. I came on board as well, the board, and I've been writing, songwriting, producing, all that business for a long time. Came from a musical family, did harmonies before anything with the Partington family singers, and I've been involved with community singing for a very long time, and yeah, that's probably enough for now, isn't it? Really, it'll all become clear. But I'm very excited about this because I've been singing songs from South Africa for a very long time, and I have many friends who are involved in the apartheid struggle. And yes, so I'm just really happy, and I'm so happy to have spent some time with Eugene as well and got to know you, Eugene, over the last year or so, and very happy that we're going to be making some music together. That's going to be really lovely. So thank you for that, and thank you everyone. I'm really looking forward to this.
Victor and Nic, you can talk about yourselves, or you can introduce each other. You can do whatever you like there. Just if you feel uncomfortable talking about yourself, you can then say something about the other guy. I don't know. It's up to you. What do you reckon? We need to know.
We've only got 40 years of experience to draw on. 45. How much was it, Vic?
Yeah, I mean, if you go back to
85, 40 years, yeah.
40 years.
Well, you could tell us how you first met, and then
how did you meet? Were you in a band?
Tell us about the band.
Well, let me do this. Then I think Nic, we met at Natal University. I was a student, and I met Nic on saxophone, and immediately we hated one another. I'm kidding.
Saxophone divides lots of people.
It troublesome instrument.
Yeah, that's why it's called sex and violence. Sex and violence.
Okay, move on.
So we met at Natal University, and we started, really we connected together first as people. And then by the time he introduced me to Malcolm and Friends First, and that's where the whole relationship has been. And we're still very much brothers up to now. And we're all involved in the music industry. I'm writing a lot of music, but Nic has been also doing quite a lot of writing and a lot of movie scoring as well. And he's got a very musical family as well. And so, it's all just the synergies that we still have on each other. And I really still love the way Nic is a music landscaper, if I can sum it like that. Because he's not just focused on just the one way of doing things. He sees things from a panoramic viewpoint. Beautiful. So that's my part.
Well, Vic's story, he actually, the mythology of Victor Masondo is a sort of burgeoning industry, really, because he tells a story of doing grade, what was it, in 3 months? Grade 6. Something like
it's just crazy. It's just crazy.
Masondo was rushed into the music tradition from his deep African roots into having to get university entrance in a matter of months. I think it was something like 4 months. That's the one rush job. The other thing is his church in KwaMashu raised his entire university fee up front. So that's the power of community, and especially faith communities. And so, Vic, I mean, when you finished, we did the Jazzanians. It was a band that we toured the States with. Friends First and the Jazzanians coexisted, and Masondo was expected to play bass in both. But he was, he was whisked away really essentially you went to the States on the strength of who was the jazz great that took you over there?
That is Max Roach.
Max Roach, okay.
And
Dizzy.
What's it? Yeah, well, I worked with Dizzy Gillespie first, which was for me the biggest thing that I could ever be involved in.
And then Miriam Makeba decided, okay, I want this South African guy to produce my next album. And the stories are that you had spent a lot of time on the other side of the glass but now you had to come into the control room and like boss it. Is that right? I'm on the right track?
Yeah, well, nervously so. I didn't know. I was a rookie.
You know, a great wave has taken Victor Masondo into the world. He's got a very strong connection with Japan, a particular Japanese artist, and so on. So he's a real man of the world, and I think we connect very deeply at many levels. Yeah, so I'll leave it at that. Ubuntu for us is reality.
Lovely. I mean, we're all in awe here, and I've got to pick up a few of those wonderful names you dropped because they were massive.
But also, what a good idea to introduce each other, because I'm not sure if Victor would have given us all that information about himself. I have a feeling that you would have been very backward in coming forward about all those amazing things you did. So maybe we should have introduced each other as well.
As part of another intro, could you say something about Friends First and the ethos behind it? Because to me, it was an absolutely beautiful thing, long before Mandela was released, to see white and black in the same band, unified by the beauty of South Africa and the harmonies and the rhythms. What was I mean, were you the instigators of that thing, and how did it come about?
Ravik.
Nic was the instigator, definitely. He was the main instigator for Friends First, and even the community I met him in was a community of people who were just wanting to break through the boundaries and kind of like reach out to the next person and find out who people are. Because through friendship, you get to know who people are. And the system in the country was making sure we do not connect as people, so that you can have perceptions on each other and how we think each other thinks. So the whole thing of breaking through barriers and bringing people closer and say, who are you and not what are you, was the most important thing.
Beautiful. Nic, you got something to say?
I mean, I think Friends First, as people know it, came about after a Christian arts festival in 1985. And I think it became it took on a synergy, to borrow Vic's words there, that, I mean, there were key players. Joe Arthur as a producer was a key player. Malcolm as an impresario was key to it. I mean, my role was really to plant a seed in a way, because I didn't go on to really perform with them. I mean, once it became a performing outfit, that's more Victor's story, but mine was to write a couple of songs that was actually somewhat throwaway, to be honest. And the We See in You Africa, I wrote 4 of the songs on that album, and it was just almost a throwaway. These were songs that came out of a process that we found ourselves in. We found ourselves in a process of saying, we are meant to be Christians, we are meant to be standing for truth, and we are meant to be standing for unity. We live in this country that's supposed to be a Christian country that is divided at its heart. You know, so a response came, and we might use the word prophetic, if you like. A prophetic response came to our situation, and it was really greater than ourselves. Although, I mean, Malcolm was an arch. He was really able to get things going, and Joe was a whiz in the studio. At that time, there weren't many people like him, really fine producers. So the thing took on a life of its own. But yeah, let me stop there. I mean, we one thing I will say to maybe segue it into the choral space is the songs that were really written for everyone to sing together. And that was actually one last PS from me. I heard African chorale, and I said, I can't do this. My culture can't do this. We have to be taught how to do this. Not in Africa. So I thought, it is my ambition to get white people singing with a little bit more naturalness, moving and singing. So uxolo, it means to dance, means to sing. It's the same word. I think, am I right, guys?
Ngoma.
Ngoma, sorry, that's it.
Yeah. Craig, may I have your permission just to interject with a very positive golden thread comment? inspired by what's preceded it.
Anytime.
Yeah, thanks, Nic and Victor and everyone, but in particular, thanks to you guys from the source for speaking of each other in the most beautiful, endorsing and affirming way that you've done. And I got inspired listening to both of you, to each of you, to share with our colleagues from the global north a beautiful Zulu word. In our culture, we have a word, ngesiZulu, we say isiphethu. And that word translates loosely as fountainhead and spring, or wellspring,
Source. Mhm.
source. Now, what Victor, first of all, Nic, it is not lost on us. It's not lost on me in particular, but not lost on us. The ancestral river, you know, the source that you come from, you know, and hence I thought of that metaphor is to, you know, the unveiling of yourself, your being. You come from a very, very, very long river of progressive consciousness. Alan Paton was, you know, Cry the Beloved Country was our Bible, if you like, to use, you know, a Christian metaphor. We all swore by him, we lived by him, all of us, including Steve Biko. And so it is an honor to be in the presence of this collective spirit of consciousness. So I have to say that we cannot just assume that or take it for granted, you know? Yeah. So I would like to say that when you introduced each other and spoke beautifully, poetically about each other, you exuded the most beautiful concept that was ever given by any culture to the world, and that is the culture and philosophy of Ubuntu. Umuntu ngumuntu ngabantu. A person is a person through other people. I am because you are. So I just have to say that.
Beautiful.
Just writing these words down. There's more songs being written here.
I'm sorry, just one more interjection. Just one small one. I needed to actually add to my brother Nic there. The songs you wrote were not throwaways. They were called Foundation.
Yes, yes, yes.
There's never a throwaway, because that was the first foundational album that where you wrote songs.
They're incredible. And Victor, I'll endorse that because, and I'll follow it with a question. So the first song I ever heard was We See a New Africa. It was the name of the album, I think. So when you said We See a New Africa, is it here yet? Did you saw it then, and how much of it is now? And maybe how can we make this conversation and what we're doing part of your vision of a new Africa? Is that too big a question to ask?
No. It's not too big a question. We are seeing. I must just speak for myself. I was excited when we finally managed to reach our, I don't know what to call it, a plateau. When we finally got to a place of like, all right, now there's the laws I raised, the old laws. So now we're going to start on something new. And I found that apartheid was written in people's hearts. The laws changed, but people never changed. And then only to find out that apartheid was trained to have a second phase that looked like we've already reached the new Africa, but we're still looking for it. Well, there are some glimpses of it, and we're starting to see our new Africa coming through other nations. Right now, I mean, I have one nation that I have so much praise for. It's called Burkina Faso. I'm seeing a new Africa there, and I'm just praying that becomes a viral thing that will happen throughout the rest of the continent. But our Africa is coming. We see it. We want to see it. So we sometimes actually think we are in it, and then certain realities jump up and just kind of hit us in the face and say, "You're not there yet, but keep going, keep going."
Thank you, Victor. Nic, anything to add to that? Because I'm going to bring it onto the song now.
Yeah, I think the job is half done. The legislative reboot was important. The new constitution, gift, but we have a long way to go, and I think our long way to go is that long walk to freedom, because freedom, there's always more. There's always more people to free. There's always more of ourselves to free, and we free ourselves in order to free the world, to free the universe. We've got that level of connectedness. So that's my short answer is the job is not complete. If I think of the metaphor of the kingdom of God, which is it's a problematic phrase, but it's meant to be both within you and among you. The promise of a different way of life, where compassion is at the heart of it, and where the structures of society that so demean people are somehow dissolved. I don't know how to do it. I mean, I think a lot of us are trying hard and realizing that, we sometimes feel pessimistic about our efforts. We don't know whether we've achieved anything. I would say that I've become an optimist. As I've grown older, I've become very optimistic. I always see the good for some reason. And so I see a glass half full in the world and in South Africa. I mean, I don't think we should leave out the fact that apartheid has reappeared in unexpected places. Certainly, I feel that Israel is an apartheid state, and I feel that the US is becoming an apartheid state as well. Right. So if we are the world, then we still got to stand against apartheid. But we can best do it directly in our concrete lived relationships. So that's why I'm proud of my Bravik, because we've taken, unspokenly, we took on that goal. We took on that burden in 1985, and we stuck with it through the years. We might have lived in different parts of the world, but now we're both elders in our societies, but we know that we've walked. We weren't politicos, neither Victor and I had majorly political language, but actually we tried to both head for the heart of the issue, and we remained continuing to head into the heart of the problem of division.
Thank you so much. Amazing words, and I'm so glad we're recording this, because I need probably listen to that again and again. I'll bring it now round to the reason why we're all here together, and we'll start talking about songs, because this is the sort of catalyst for all this, and then maybe we can sort of add a centimetre to the glass full, if possible, by doing what we're doing. So it all came about because through our website we have been sharing folk songs from around the world. A precedent to this was that we did a New Zealand song, Po Kare Kare Ana, and we raised money through that for the Maori community in New Zealand. And after a disaster, then we raised awareness for that. And we were very careful to work with the indigenous people who knew about the pronunciation and the right spelling and the way to do the song. So that was an important kind of precedent to this. There are echoes of that here. And then one song which we have been dealing with for a while, I learned quite a way back. I think Eugene might have taught it to the person who taught it to me. I'm not quite sure. We tried to work this out. Is this song, Malizwa. I'm going to play a little bit of it now. And it goes on and on. You've got the two parts. You get the three parts.
Already I know it in a different from that, because like all these songs, they've been passed through by ear, and you have slightly different pronunciations of things. So it's really interesting.
That's how it works. Well, that's the version we did in Young Voices. So it went to America. Sorry, just pressed the space bar by accident. And the American Young Voices took it on and they loved it as well. Now, there is little research that we were able to do. There was not much of it at all. When we do a song, we like to say, it's about this, it's this is where you find it, this is the origin. And we looked and we just knew the song. We didn't have any information about the origin. And after a couple of weeks and months, then somebody wrote to me and they really wanted to know. And I said, right, okay, I've had enough of this. I'm going to find out what it's about. And I turned to Eugene. And Eugene, you had a bit of a story, didn't you? Because it took you a while to find the right person. You initially came up with nothing, and then you dug further. You had to dig very deeply into your friends about where this song came from. And just to précis it, I'll hand over to you, Eugene, as well. To précis it, we found out that it was not in any particular language. The actual language is hidden because it's an anti-apartheid song. It's about retrieving the land. The people who singing it knew about it, but it's deliberately in a secret language. And that blew my mind. It meant possibly that the person who wrote the song is still alive and might be with us, and that the concept of South African folk songs was blown out of the water. These kind of folk songs that we have English folk songs, we have a few others from America on the website. They're folk songs. They are public domain. And I felt very convicted that these songs were not public domain, that they were actually owned by certain people in South Africa, and if not certain people, then the community, okay? And therefore something had to be given back, similar to the way the land has been asked to be given back, and that's maybe happening wrongly or rightly, well or badly, doesn't matter. But that's why I turned to Eugene and I said, what do we do about this? And I'm going to hand over to you, Eugene, now, because you've got a bit more maybe story about the song and the meaning of it. Can you enlighten us? And then I'll show the list of other songs.
Thanks, Craig. I think it should be sufficient for this meeting for me to articulate this in this manner. And I say this meeting because, and thanks to you for convening it, it's very special that we have Victor and Nic with us. And for me, as I very effusively said a few minutes ago, and I couldn't control myself, I cannot avoid opening up in this special way, because, again, not using the word in its hackneyed form, but this is very spiritual as well. You know, allow me to speak in my sort of haphazard sort of way, because the inspiration just comes up, it bubbles up, it's effervescent. I'm looking at your image, Nic, on the screen, on my screen, and I saw you respond with a beautiful sort of nod. The way you expressed how you and Victor were not necessarily politicos in that sense. I liked that. I loved that very much, because, you know, there's the formal way of organizing things politically, like we in this movement, you know, I'm an activist or whatever. However that may be, you both know that in our culture, you know, when you were remembering the word, like ngoma, Victor, you know that in ngoma, you know, like it's dance, it's the drum, that same Nguni word or Bantu word, that Nguni word, you know, Zulu, Xhosa, whatever, coming from the north, when we were populating our continent, the motherland that Victor speaks so beautifully of in terms of Traore and the kind of changes that are going on, where soon we will see Africa as one whole, you know, family, not carved up in the colonial way. So that same word that came down, you know, along this river, we come back to the river metaphor, meant drum, it also means divine healing energy, like whereas ingoma, angithi Victor, ingoma, you know. So depending on how you pronounce it, Craig, Piers, and Gitika, depending on the melody of the word, the meaning changes. So that's not even going yet to how many words we're using. Just even one word, you know, how you articulate it, it has all these different meanings. Now, the same concept or same word can in the same way that the same river, like the Nile or Umgeni River or the Limpopo River, the river can be long, going from the hills to the Indian Ocean. And along the course of the river, where it passes all these different communities, the river picks up minerals, gems, you know, and deposits them at the alluvial estuary at the end, you know. So all along the way, the same river has got different intonations, different tones, if you love, different textures, if you like, you know. So now, coming back to the song that Craig is reminding us about, when I went back to my friends, we were reminded, you know, looking for the meaning of the song and stuff. We're reminded that during the struggle, as you guys, as you, Victor and Nic will remember, that there was a way that the subject of apartheid or anti-apartheid or the activism or the subject of freedom fighting, you know, aspiring to liberation was such that you couldn't always be very explicit, because, you know, the special branch would catch you, you know, you'd be detained or whatever. So there was a poetic way of what's the word? You know, literally like going underground, you know.
Diversion.
Yeah, subversion. Yeah, you know, where we would subvert its immersion and subversion not in a negative way, literally just meaning we submerge, we go submergence as well. We go underneath. But those of us who know, and we would communicate between us. I lived that life, you know. You know, I don't even know if you. This is not much of a digression, but these two brothers will appreciate it. Victor and Nic, I don't know if you ever experienced that. I grew up with that. You know, when we used to make our own guitars out of Caltex or Mobil or BP petrol gallon tins, you know, the oil gallons, you know, and we'd string the guitar, piece of wood, you'd make a bridge and what have you. And we as kids who needed to go into shops owned by racist white people, like by Afrikaners and stuff, a general dealer store where we could get sweets and cakes or whatever, you know, and flour for our families. Sometimes because we were so poor, we couldn't afford to get the things. We couldn't even afford to get our sweets. So one of us would play the guitar and go in and entertain the Afrikaner, and they'd like our playing, and we play. And then when they're distracted, I would sing lyrics in Zulu, knowing that the Afrikaner is so racist, had not bothered to learn our language. And I would say, Nago Remanje, Victor, Spusi, so you can go now. He's not watching. Go. He's looking at me now. You can go pull the sweets, you know. And we would do a whole thing. And we didn't call it stealing. We called it repossession, yes, or liberating, you know. So there's a whole sort of subversive poetry that permeated how some of those songs happen. So a song will appear to be quite innocuous, and people wouldn't understand what it's saying, but we knew that we were talking about the struggle. Mm. Victor, I see you smiling there.
This is good. So you started at a young age with that, but you found out that this song was one of those, and that we found that fascinating. It's all written up on a blog that I gave you a link to. And so that convinced us that we had to do something not just about that song, but about all the songs. I'm going to share my screen because I have ready. No, it should be here. Oh, but there you go. Oh, that should be okay.
Craig, may I ask you a question whilst you're doing that about where, can you remember who taught you McLeish?
David Lawrence taught me McLeish, and then he got it from another guy in Scotland who I think also said that he may have learned it from you, Eugene, but we're not entirely sure. Here is our page explaining about our relationship with Umoya and what we're going to do in terms of giving back to the communities, a little bit of what would be royalties, so that something goes back to the origin, the source, if you like. Is it the Isipetu? Is that the source?
Yeah, Isipetu. Yes.
So that's a really important word for today, because we're talking about the source of this wonderful music. And so there's the list that we have at the moment. And now, so we've got Singa Hambayo, Gitika's done a lovely arrangement of that, and Bamba Layla, we both have one of those. Ikude as well. I've done Shosholoza, Melizwe, Iparadisi, which I actually learnt when I was in Cape Town the week I was down there. Freedom is Coming, which we all know. Bamba Layla again, and Akilia Makale. So those are the songs which at the moment we are giving Umoya the royalties from. Now, I'm going to come to Nic and Victor now. What's your general... how do you receive this information to start with? And are we doing the right thing? And is any way we can improve on what we're trying to do? I'd like to sort of... because I think they're getting the general concept of what we're trying to do here, and we are looking for other songs to add this year because we're kind of giving it a bit of a push. So, yeah, Nic, when I spoke to you about a month ago about this, and you received it quite interestingly. I thought you were quite positive when you heard what we were trying to do, but you've now had time to think about it and maybe give some other thoughts on.
I'd like to give Vic the mic right now. Firstly, Joseph Shabalala is mentioned in that page. I mean, Vic needs to maybe just say one or two things about his connection with that whole community. I mean, they're from the same place. And then
also Eugene has a big connection there too, don't you, Eugene? Huge, familial. Yeah, so they both got lovely things to say.
So let me not, before we establish that, let me not say anything further. Bravik.
Okay. Yeah, first, interesting, about 3 days ago, I was on a call with three of the guys when we were discussing South African gospel music, and then we were talking about the treasure trove of what exists in a big gospel movement, church movement and songs that were born inside revival campaign from what we call the Back to God crusade. That was spearheaded by a man whom we highly respected, Dr. Nicholas Bengu, who happened to be the one who was very close to my dad. And their whole thing was about just the tent revolving, bringing back the whole idea of taking the glory to where it's supposed to go. But we're going to shorten that. Most of the songs that were born there were born inside that campaign, because people would just say a phrase and it would break into a song. And we're just talking about the need to collect, because we're tracing, and we managed to start finding the real original writers of this music, of which a bigger percentage of it is sitting within the under the wing of Assemblies of God, but our Back to God crusade, which started before I was born. Where, like the song that I just heard now, Singabahamba Yutina, and there are quite a few other songs that have been taken and used because we were also treating them like that. We were just singing them without knowing who the people are, so they fell into public domain. But we're just thinking about, we need to regather these songs, because there are some songs that we traced to, for an example, Mama Dube, who happens to be Benjamin Dube's mom, who's Benjamin Dube has become quite a popular figure here, gospel-wise, and we go way back. And then it also ties with Bab Joseph Shabalala. Bab Joseph Shabalala was a man who was actually was mentored by my dad as such. So a lot of him, bringing him from Istatamia to say you can incorporate gospel so that you can catch all of this. And by the time he became himself a Christian, for lack of a better word, we still need another word, he started incorporating the music, and then started, there's still lots of songs that are just unaccounted for, but we're starting to be able to say, who wrote this? And people are saying, oh no, I remember it was coming from, so we're starting to trace this so that this music can have a home. Our music is kind of homeless at this point in time. So we just need to, I'm just very fascinated at, and also looking forward to a process of where everything is going to be allocated to where it needs to go. And, and also to have it useful, but to actually, more importantly, more than anything else, we need to help understand the spirit behind each and every song so that you can know where to appropriate it.
Yes.
Because sometimes we can be singing, you know, I mean, I've had people taking a song like Senzenina, 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 and kind of like putting it into a happy upbeat song. But there's a somber that is a very hard, you know, but if you do not understand the culture behind the song, so it's so important for us to be able to say, oh yeah, this song comes from this, it means this, it was born from this kind of spirit, and you know, and bring it to the front. I hope I haven't confused everybody.
No,
That's beautiful.
not at all, Victor. I think you were getting on your wavelength. Absolutely, it's exactly what we wanted to hear, because it's just like people like yourself that we needed to connect with to find out, you know, where these songs go, not just as a group but individually. You're right, each and every little song has a life of its own. I mean, for instance, Says Any No, would you like to like unpack that a bit more and actually tell us where that actually comes from and why it's got such a sort of a deeper meaning that we give to it?
Yeah, I'll start from this. The roots of our struggle were born from a church to become the African National Congress. African National Congress was not really a political movement. It was a gathering of pastors and church leaders who said the gospel is about social justice, so we need to bring justice back to the country. So songs like, you know, after the brutal murders of some of our people, some of the things are not registered, have not been told. But after the brutal murder, the question came and said, but what have we done to deserve this? So that's the song, really, that, you know, you're looking at your murdered children, your murdered, you know, family members, your murdered people are just bleeding in front of you, and you just have to say, but
What have we done?
what have we done? So that's what that song is, Senzenina, Senzenina.
Our only sin
Because, and so
that we
even
are
how,
back.
yeah, even the melody itself describes how we speak. Because if I say Senzenina, then when I'm expressing, I say Senzenina, what have we done? So the melody even ascends to that, which suits the kind of the what does it mean? Senzenina, it evokes that emotion. So that's why when you sing it, it transports you sometimes to where you were standing when you first heard it, what the imagination, it paints a whole picture, because we don't sing songs for entertainment. Our songs are statement related. So it's part of our names as well. So that's why I'm just expressing that any song that comes through, it comes through, and then we need to kind of like trace, this is where this comes from and this is what it means. You know, Senzenina was a very painful song. Even when I sing it up to now, I can still feel it transports you back to the time and place when things were going on.
Yeah, amazing.
May I?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Gitika, were you about to tell us where you first heard that song? And
Well, I was going to say that I taught Senzenina to a bunch of inner London kids who went to the townships to do a music exchange with, I can't remember his name, but a very famous black South African trumpeter was involved in the project.
Masondo?
No, it wasn't. I can't remember his name though. And this was in 2003. And I didn't
Johnny
go with them.
Mekwa?
Pardon?
Johnny Mekwa?
I still don't remember. Anyway, the kids went over, and at one point during the day, the teacher said, "Oh, let's sing Senzenina," and I'd given them all the background to Senzenina, and they sung it, and the leader had his hands in his head in his hands all the way through the song, and they were like, "Oh my God, what have you done?" And he said to them, "Most white South Africans cannot even say anything in our language, cannot say hello in our language. You have come from the other side of the world and sung us a song that means so much to us, and it means so much that you have sung it for us, because they sung it from the right place." And whenever I sing that song, I always put it into that context of how important it is and put the translation. But I did actually want to say one other thing, just about small songs. Did you say Benjamin's mother had written one of the songs? Did you say Mum or Benjamin's?
Benjamin Dube's mother, yes, Mama Grace.
And the reason I want to bring this up, as the only woman in this group, and you know, aware of gender apartheid as much as anything else, is that small songs round the world have very much often been written by women, like lullabies particularly, and hymns particularly. And I just wanted to just focus on that recognition of women in this place there.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully part of this will be finding out if
Yes,
it
exactly.
was indeed men
So
or
thank
women
you for
who
sharing
wrote
that,
these songs.
Victor. That was really lovely. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I mean, may I just say one more thing about Senzeni Na? I think out of any song, it's the most, it would be the one song that requires the most spiritual insight to be able to take part in. And in fact, I'm not even convinced that that most people can take part in using that song.
It's very sensitive.
Yeah, it's hugely sensitive. I have experimented as a choral arranger with using it, and I actually took this idea to Costa Rica in 2018. It didn't come off, but my thought was this: if we are allowed to reimagine who is singing the song, and instead of it being, as Vic says, usually black women who have just been facing police bullets, who are falling and who have died, and saying, "What have we done?" Defenseless people who are asking that incredible question to the overlords. What if we could? Now, I'm not saying we can, but here's my imaginative leap. Could we say, instead of it being that originating group of people, it is humanity saying, "What have we done?" And I took it further to go into a cry, not just for my people who are being oppressed, but the earth, all of us. So I suggested going into the earth is bare, the sky is crying. The earth is bare, the sky is crying. Senzeni Na, Senzeni Na. And then I actually had some, I think, closer words. Umhlaba wona womile amazulu ayakhala. I don't know. I'm throwing this up because this is possibly at the heart of the problem of who owns what and who has the right to use what. I don't know what to do about my idea of replacing the original voice of Senzeni Na. It's something that may come, given the right constellation of people and the sensitivity to the issue, may come to pass. So far it hasn't. So it's just sitting in a Word document in my world. But yeah, Craig, can you see what I'm trying to get at? The sensitive question of who owns what, who originates what, and who should have the rights to what.
It's very powerful.
Well, it's all part of the question we're asking, really. I mean, it's interesting that Eugene, you mentioned Senzeni Na as a song that you want to use in our workshop coming up, which is looking forward to very much, which will be essentially white people from Milton Keynes learning about that song. Now, Nic, are you saying that?
May I just allow me an interjection based on what Nic has just said, which I hear very clearly. Sorry, brother, not to cut you short. Just to throw in, Nic and everybody, I resonate exquisitely with your point, Nic, and I will explain something that I said to you, Craig, a few weeks ago or months ago when you and I had a Zoom, and I very powerfully and beautifully introduced you to the notion that the songs are about the land as well. That song, that our music, our songs are the songs of the earth as well. Because Victor, you know more than anybody else in this group that traditionally, when a child is born in our culture, the umbilical cord is buried in the earth. And this tradition is throughout Africa. A tree, traditionally, I'm talking about strict pre-colonial tradition. The umbilical cord is buried in the earth, and on top of that, is planted a tree. And this is the most powerful environmental consciousness concept in human history, because that tree is an extension of yourself. So the wanton slaying of a tree, the wanton chopping down of a tree is tantamount to suicide. So the people, the songstresses and the singers and the creators of these songs that are the you know, like the Aboriginal people, the theory, the concept of singing the world into being. Our people, that's why we have Ngoma, the Ngoma of healing, divine healing energy, and Ngoma the song, Ngoma the drum, and the best marimbas are made from hardwood from a tree struck by lightning, meaning that the tree has not been chopped down for the instrument, mother of music, marimba, by the people, but nature gives us the instrument. So what I'm saying, what I like about Nic's concept, Craig and everyone, is that we have a commitment. The only reason that we speak even now about royalties, it's a capitalist notion, you know, and we're in the culture, and I support it because we don't cheat, and people, we must know the provenance of songs, and people should be properly rewarded, etc., etc. But if for a moment we just stash that, just park that aside, nobody really owns anything, because we all own it, and you know, we don't own it and we own it. So ownership, the seriousness about ownership is against the backdrop of a materialist culture whereby you can buy things and things are commodified. So we must always, and don't get me wrong, you know, don't misunderstand me, you know, I'm struggling to find the right words, but what I'm saying is that what I like about Nic's idea of the question Senzeni na, listen very carefully. So like Victor says, hey, Senzeni na, ngabe Senzeni na, Senzeni gota na, what have we done really, you know, and then we cry. And that's true and that's genuine. But Nic's idea is we confront ourselves and we say, what have we done? You know, look at what we have done, you know. So we play with that poetry.
And it's not the question changes from the victim to someone taking responsibility. That's the shift. And I added a quote from a Native American: "Treat the earth well. It is not given to you by your parents. It was loaned to you by your children. We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children."
Yeah, I've heard that many times.
And that would be part of the, in my arrangement, that would be a part of it, a spoken part of it.
Gitika, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to thank you all for what you've contributed today, and thank you, Eugene, for what you're saying about that that whole thing about the earth and the tree. And this weekend, I actually just put the ashes of 6 of my dear departed relatives who've been sitting in my house for 6 years, and someone said, "No, you've got to put them back in the earth, you've got to put them back in the river." So they went back in the earth, they went back in the river, and it was incredible what it did for me. And what I'm thinking about is this whole thing of homelessness. And what I've been told is that now I've brought them back to the earth, and now I've put them back in the river, they are back. You know, the cycle is complete. And what I've done by holding on to them and not allowing them that thing was I'd actually stopped their movement forward. And it feels like what you said, Victor, about being homeless. And what I think our real feeling, our real passion is that we want to reunite these songs, as you have said. I think we've got that common bond of wanting to just reunite. And as Eugene said, it's not about the money, it's about the energy, it's about the actual thing of coming home, bringing them home to where they were, you know, where they were born, you know, that umbilical cord under the earth and the tree is just perfect. And then our ashes get put under the tree at the end in our, you know, culture or in the water. So that for me is the presiding essence of our conversation we're having now, and what we are trying to do, Craig and Piers, isn't it? We're actually just going, yes, We want these to be reunited, brought back home.
You've absolutely nailed it.
Beautiful.
That's the best. That's the hub of what we're doing here. I think so.
Yeah. So
If
can I?
if I may interject for just 1 second. Also, I think there's a part of us as a people. I think it's an indigenous culture, if I can call it that. You get Chinese proverbs says, and then you got African proverbs says, because yet there are the individuals who are known who came up with those, but none of us want to always own something that was influenced by the collective. So most of the songs were even written, and that culture still exists to say the African song is. So when you're saying your struggle song is, immediately, even up to now, some struggle songs are being rewritten with the nucleus of what was put down there's a format that sits on all those things. I think when we have almost like it's a workshop type thing, this I'm just thinking about as I speak, in every single thing that happens right now, people still write new songs, but they are based on an old format that is here that ends up becoming a collective for people. But now the thing is all of those things have been monetized as time went on. So now that they're being monetized, it's almost like yes, it's a good thing to trace who the original writers are, but I think this needs a hub of where things are gonna sit in and then be allocated to something that's appropriate for what this is, until we can identify some of the individuals as such. So we still have that whole thing again, because you hum a song and all of a sudden it's an African song, and we are still that kind of people. We've got our own proverbs and we've got our own, yet there are tribes who specialized in all those things. It goes back to Amahubo, which Amahubo that come back from that date way back. King Shaka had Amahubo that were born from Mtetwa tribe. They're just 3 lines. But Amahubo now has been called hymns, but which are not really European hymns. So it's a whole structural thing of, I think we're gonna end up really finding what makes sense here is to create a hub, house, protect whilst we find, or create a hub, whatever is monetized goes into something that makes sense with how things are. That's what I thought about before I could forget it.
That's it. Exactly.
And I think that does reflect what I think we're trying to do, right? Craig, I don't know whether it's the right thing, but that I think that reflects so closely to what we are trying to achieve with Umoya Creations. Because I think for us, Umoya is that hub that is standing in for the best possible thing we can do.
Initially, it's the first hub we're using,
right?
Because we thoroughly believe in Eugene and his heart for this rehoming situation. And so what we're asking you guys, maybe overall after this meeting, both Nic and Victor, is will you be able to help us or introduce us to the people who can help us find the homes to these songs? I mean, and one I'm still struggling with is Bambalela. I was talking to somebody, sent me an email when it came 2 years ago when we first put it on the site, saying, "Oh, I know the person who wrote this," and they had a little thing on an email about who, and it was kind of 1980s or something. I thought I think it's been around before then, but maybe it hasn't. We may not have time today to talk about all the songs.
We won't have time today.
No, but we're not asking that. But just as an example, I wasn't satisfied with that answer, and I think I need to dig deeper and further. And we're obviously beholden and very grateful to you guys for helping us out.
I think we've said so much today in this session so far, and I think it's such a long journey, and it's a very fluid journey as well. I think it is like a river, as Eugene said. It's like a river, and it's picking up different things as we go along the river. And the great thing about us as an organisation is that we're very open to change. I've found that Piers and Craig and us, we're always discussing things. We're always changing our minds
as we're going along.
We are like that river. We do, and I think as long as we can have a really honest, authentic intention, it will always be there. And it may be that we find more music that we can put on the site and know that is going to benefit Umoya, that there is, and it's being presented to the world, that might be a great place for it to start, because we would like to have more music. And because we have, what, 10,000 choirs? You know, we have a lot.
12, no? Yeah.
12,000 choirs. It's a great platform to get music out there and to celebrate this music, because that's what this is about. This is about sharing the music and celebrating the music and just, you know, all of that. So if we can benefit the music, help it find a home, because I think if people are singing it, it has a home. It has a home in their hearts, you know, and that's what better place to have, you know, to have a song to have than in your heart, you know. So, you know, I just want to say brilliant, Piers and Craig. You know, I just think what we're doing is wonderful.
Yeah.
And
Could I just ask one question? Because the one thing that struck me, and there you go, and I just want to say, first of all, I'm obviously blown away by the words I've heard as well today. You know, they're just extraordinary. But I guess my brain, maybe I work more in the material and the mundane. I always go back to the practical. I just want to understand, you know, this is the platform we've got. This is what we want to progress with. What I heard was, I think, is there is possibly a line over which some songs are too sensitive or too difficult to communicate the importance of for this platform to be adequate. Is that right? Am I understanding that correctly? It felt to me like there was possibly a line that we need to be aware of, and only work with stuff that, or am I wrong? Are you just expressing concern and a sensitivity to it? But as long as we present things carefully enough, sensitively enough, and with enough information for people to really understand it and work with it, then this platform is adequate to that. I wasn't sure.
May I try and answer that? The answer, actually, thank you, Piers. That's a very important. Your super sensitivity actually equal to the sensitivity that Victor and Nic are talking about is actually so welcome in terms of the way you help steer the group. The platform, as I understand from Nic and Victor, is actually perfect. However, it is the conscious. It requires. We need to continue to be consciously alert and vigilant about the kind of sensitivities, for instance, that Victor in particular described. You know, just about how the malleability of the whole process. You know, and the organicness of it, and the community-basedness of it, which all point to the essence of the culture of Ubuntu, of collective ownership and movement, like this river. You know, the continuum. So long as we are aware of that, and that is the guiding principle, that is the, you know, the sugar or salt that we use to spice the serving, then we are always okay. I think I'm right, yeah? I'm seeing you nodding, Nic. We just have to be careful of that all the time, and we can manage to be that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if I may, I think what makes me why I kind of pointed on something of that nature was so that I can be able to. First of all, I must say I'm just so comfortable with you guys right now. I've not known you for about an hour now, and you know, we are more perceptive people more than anything else. We connect, we speak, and then we listen. We're not with our ears, but with our hearts, and to be able to know that the intentions are how can we, because people just do their things without even asking for permission. So that's what I want to come from to say. I really appreciate that. How people like me can help is that we're able to redirect, to say, no, this music that you're hearing comes from this and is born from this type of style, and it is going in that direction. So for an example, when you talk about Bambelela, it may not that it was made popular in the 80s by somebody who may claim to be the writer, yet there is a style that was created that comes from all these different genres that you have. I mean, our genres are so varied. We've got Istratamia, we've got Imbube, we've got Isjele. Now there's a new thing that is just really sweeping in the country called Guijo. And all those things, when you hear it, it sounds like it's something that, so in other words, our part is to be able to help clarify certain things that are not made clear and be able to say, guys, because we want our music, our stories to be global. So we want everybody to sing the songs. We just want people to understand what they're singing, though. Because what happens, the importance of that being that there's something that may happen to you as a singer, as a person, when you're singing something.
Yes.
And you need to understand why you're feeling a certain way that you do, only to find out the spirit of what you are singing, is because music is that much spiritual. So it's a part of how we can be able to say, what you're hearing comes from this era, born through this, and this is what it means. This is how the implication can be, and this is how it can be used. Thank you for honoring the music. Keep on doing what you need to do, because we are accountable when people come and say, oh, aren't you a part of that group? And didn't they do, sometimes we get lots of backlash on certain things. So I'm just saying it's so wide, but right now we start them in a good premise, because the intentions that I can hear are all good. So we want to be able to say, here's how this can work. So moving forward, the long and short of it is, we're happy moving forward. We just want to be able to help, bring music that wanders, a spirit that wanders, not a good spirit. That's what we call it, is spogi. It's more of a nightmare than a spirit that's come to be able to say, thank you for looking after me, so.
And we had, thank you so much. We had a situation where we spent 25 years singing South African wedding songs, except they weren't. You know what I mean? It's like every song you learned, someone would say, oh, it's a South African wedding song. And you'd be like, oh, yeah, okay. It's like, that was like, to have the source, to have that from you is just brilliant. Because what I'm saying is there were no South African wedding songs.
Nic, you were about to say
Yeah,
something.
just 3 bullet points, because our time is up and I've got to get going. Three words for further discussion. Number 1, repatriation. It's an interesting word. It often means bringing back the ashes. But in terms of this homelessness, let's frame some of these things as repatriating the spirit, the ideas. Secondly, trust with a capital T. In other words, a trust, the formation of a trust. There's something in it. I mean, I don't necessarily mean a financial trust, but a commonwealth of sorts. And then the third one, cultural appropriation, is a word that's been used for decades in the South African discourse. And it's usually used in quite judgmental ways. I mean, I get told by my daughters I'm culturally appropriating every now and then, and I have to defend myself to them. They read university, so they come with university ideas. And we have to discuss on what appropriation means. So, yeah, those are 3 bullet points for further discussion.
Craig, why don't you wrap up? This feels like a good good time.
Thank you. Thanks. We've gone over the time, but I really appreciate all you wonderful guys, and you all made wonderful contributions. I'm actually looking forward to. I'll put my feet up and watch this back tonight and drinking your beautiful language yet again. But if there's I think we'll have a little think about this, and we'll send a little round robin to everyone with potential bullet points and some ideas for further work. But to have you guys on board, even in just a consultation capacity, is so valuable and is going to be valuable to the songs themselves. And what Gitika said was absolutely right. This rehoming of these, the songs are living, they're alive, they are people, and they've got to belong somewhere there, and they have been taken away from their homes. And we don't want to benefit from in the wrong way from this. We want to learn the songs, we want to sing them, we want to feel that spirituality that Victor's talked about when we sing them. And if there is a line we can't cross, maybe that's up to us to decide, or for you to tell us. But maybe the last thing Victor said was that, as long as we have this information and we have the spirit behind the songs and the intent is correct, and maybe that's still okay for us to sing some of this maybe.
Yeah, in the community music, we've always talked about acknowledging the source. And if you think of it as the river metaphor, acknowledging your sources means just, going back to the beginning of the river. Where is that?
Isipetu. Is that right? Sorry, say it again. You had to
Sorry, my mic was off.
say it properly, Eugene.
Isipetu. Actually, just the very last thing, just even before Victor comes in, as the final thing from me, in the inspiration of the moment, whenever the orthography, whenever you see a Zulu word in particular, let's just stick with the isiZulu, so the spelling of isipetu would be I, S for sugar, I, P for Paul, H, E, T for Thomas, H, U. So whenever there's an H in authentic Zulu orthography after a what do you call it?
Consonant.
A consonant, it's aspirated. So if you listen carefully, and then I'll ask Victor to come in, isipetu. It's aspirated. So it's not isipetu, isipetu. Yeah. Thank you, Victor.
I think you just said what I was going to say. You covered it. You covered it. Because there's so many times where, I even hear some of my people, when they go on the other side, they even allow people to, I was talking to Bagiti Kumalo, and he sometimes even ends up addressing this as Bagiri. I said, hey. You've just changed the meaning of everything. You're Bagiti. There's a TH. Abigail Gupega. There's a BH.
BH.
So
exactly,
so the H is always a thing that so it's like T. Maybe pronounce it well in the English is like TEA. So isipe two. It's like TOO.
Yes.
Isi, and then pay. Yeah. You've already said it. I just don't want to keep repeating.
No. Totally. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Right, we will aim to repatriate these songs at their source. And, let's all do that together over the next coming months and years. Bless you all for coming. I'm going to stop the recording now. Officially, the meeting is over. Like and subscribe.